Hey, this is Bill. Welcome back to the channel. This is part 2. If you have not seen part 1, go back first. It will make far more sense. Very quick recap. Odysseus tried to dodge the Trojan War by pretending to be insane, got caught, and went anyway. 10 years later, he won it with a wooden horse and set off home with 12 ships. Then he blinded a Cyclops and could not resist shouting his own name on the way out. The Cyclops was the son of the god of the sea, who is now paying attention, 600 miles from home. This is the 10 years. It starts with the best luck he ever had. A king called Aeolus, who controls the winds and who liked him. He put every wind except the one blowing toward Ithaca into a bag and tied it shut. 9 days of perfect sailing. On the 10th day, they could see Ithaca. Close enough to see people on the shore lighting their evening fires. Odysseus had not slept in 9 days. He finally fell asleep. And here's the thing. He never told the crew what was in the bag, so they decided it was treasure he was hiding from them and opened it. Every wind in the world came out at once. They were blown all the way back to exactly where they started. 20 seconds of secrecy cost them the entire journey. Aeolus took one look and refused to help again. He said, "The gods clearly hate you." Then it got very much worse. They found a beautiful narrow harbor, completely sheltered, surrounded by tall cliffs. 11 ships sailed straight in. Odysseus tied his up outside, because he does not trust anything ever, including good harbors. The locals were giants. They stood on the cliffs and dropped boulders. 11 of the 12 ships were destroyed in a few minutes. He left Troy with over 600 men. He now has about 45. The next island had a witch on it called Circe. She fed his scouting party a very good dinner, then turned them all into pigs. They kept their human minds. That is the horrible bit. They knew. Odysseus was told to eat a plant called moly before going anywhere near her. It made the potion useless, so she gave up and turned everybody back. There is a good theory about that plant. One candidate is the snowdrop. It contains galantamine, which really does reverse poisons that cause hallucinations and confusion. A paper in 1983 made exactly that argument, and it is a strong one. Then they stayed on that island for 1 entire year. Nobody makes him stay. He is simply comfortable, and the crew have to remind him about home. And when he finally asks the way home, Circe gives him the worst possible answer. You cannot sail home yet. First, you have to sail to the edge of the world and talk to the dead. So he sails to a place where the sun never shines and digs a pit. The dead come up to it, hundreds of them all at once. The first one he meets is a crew member who fell off Circe's roof and died. Nobody had noticed he was missing. They had sailed without burying him. Then a dead prophet gives him one rule that decides everything that follows. On one island there are cattle that belong to the sun. Do not touch them. Touch them and you lose the ship, the crew, and everything. Then he sees his own mother and finds out she is dead. Nobody had told him she died of missing him. He tries to hug her 3 times. His arms go straight through. Then he meets Achilles and asks whether being king of the dead is really so bad. Achilles says he would rather be a poor farmhand slave and alive. The whole heroic dream, thrown out by the greatest hero in it. And then he meets the one ghost that changes the entire rest of the story. Agamemnon, the commander of the whole Greek army. He went home from the same war to a much bigger kingdom in triumph. He walked in the front door and announced himself. His wife and the man who had taken his throne killed him at his own welcome home dinner, a palace coup. He survived 10 years of war and died at supper. His ghost gives Odysseus one piece of advice, and it is the key to everything left. Do not sail in openly, come home in secret, find out who your wife has become first. 20 years of monsters, and the most dangerous thing in this poem is his own front door. Remember that. Every single thing he does in part 3 comes from this conversation. Back on the boat. Circe had warned him about the Sirens. Most people think the Sirens sing about love. They do not. They sing that they know everything that has ever happened. They offer to tell him what really happened at Troy. The bait is knowledge, which is the one thing he genuinely cannot resist. So he plugged every crew member's ears with wax and had himself tied to the mast so he could listen without dying. He begged them to untie him. They could not hear a single word. The beach around the Sirens is described as a heap of bones. Then came the worst choice in the entire book. A narrow channel, on one side a whirlpool that swallows whole ships 3 times a day. On the other side, a 6-headed monster in a cave that eats 6 men, guaranteed. There is no version of this where nobody dies. The whirlpool is everyone. The monster is 6. He chose the monster. And he did not tell the crew what was coming, because they would have refused to row. He said afterwards it was the worst thing he ever saw. That channel is a real place. The Strait of Messina between Italy and Sicily, real whirlpools, a real rock, and real sailors who really did fear it. Then they landed on the one island they had been specifically told to avoid. Odysseus wanted to sail straight past. The crew were exhausted and voted him down. Then the wind turned against them and trapped them there for a month. The food ran out. They were starving. Odysseus went inland to pray and fell asleep, which is the third time in this poem that him falling asleep ruins everything. While he slept, his crew ate the cattle of the sun. The story says the skinned hides crawled and the meat mooed on the spits. They ate it anyway. That is how hungry they were. 6 days later they sailed. Zeus broke the ship in half with one lightning bolt. Every single man drowned. Odysseus survived by lashing the mast and the keel together and floating on them, and drifted straight back into the whirlpool and hung off a fig tree until it spat the planks out. He washed up on an island belonging to a goddess called Calypso. She kept him there for 7 years. 7 out of the 10. Most of the journey is one man stuck on one beach, not in a dungeon, in a cave with a goddess, being offered immortality, eternal life and eternal youth forever if he stayed. He said no. He turned down being a god to go back to a middle-aged wife on a goat island. The poem is honest about it. He sits on the beach crying every single day and still goes back to her cave every night. It does not pretend otherwise. He is not free to leave. That is the whole point of the 7 years. What finally frees him is a meeting he is not even at. Athena waits until Poseidon is out of the room, then asks Zeus to let him go, which is the first honest thing this poem tells you about power. It happens in rooms you are not in, between people who are not thinking about you. He builds a raft in 4 days. Poseidon comes home, sees it, and smashes it. He swims for 2 days and washes up naked and covered in seaweed. A princess finds him while she is out doing the laundry. Her people are the best sailors in the world, and they feed him without asking his name, because guests are sacred. Hold on to that rule, it decides the whole of part 3. At dinner, a blind singer performs the story of the wooden horse. Odysseus pulls his cloak over his head and cries where nobody can see him. And here's the detail almost nobody notices. The Cyclops, the witch, the Sirens, the Whirlpool, the 7 years. All of it is Odysseus telling the story himself at a dinner party to strangers. Every single witness who could confirm any of it is dead. The most famous liar in Greek literature is the only source for the best bits. Nobody in the poem checks. Make of that what you like. They sail him home while he is fast asleep. He arrives on a stranger's ship alone 20 years after he left, which is word for word what the prophecy said before he ever set out. He is home, and this is where the monsters stop, because Ithaca has not had a king in 20 years. 108 men have moved into his house. They are eating his estate, courting his wife, and planning to murder his son, and he is about to do the exact opposite of everything Agamemnon did. Part 3 is the coup, and it is the best part. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a new one. This has been Bill. See you in the next video.